Welcome back to Laptops and Drinks. Woo! I'm Sharon.
I'm Shad.
I'm Davina.
And I'm Anne-Marie.
Please don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. You can watch us on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, send it to everyone. Watch. Please do.
Go on Spotify, go on Amazon Music, go on Apple Music. Get at us.
Make sure you comment.
So, the last episode, we were focusing on actually what it takes to raise black boys and talking about it takes a village.
Yeah.
And we had so much to get through. We wanted to kind of continue with a part 2. Yeah?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. That was a good conversation.
It was. So we got to the point where we were talking about relationships for black boys. And one of the questions that was on the survey is which relationship has the greatest influence on shaping young black boys into men?
Yeah.
And I think we kind of started to talk about, let's focus on, because we talked about it might vary depending on the age. And so what we were saying, well, let's look up maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Actually, what do you think?
We were saying parents, isn't it?
Parents.
And then, parents.
And potentially older siblings is what I said as well.
When I say parents, actually, caregivers, because whoever that person predominantly is around, because they could live in a multi-generational home. They could have grandparents who
parental figure.
Yeah, who are in the home as well. Or
Agreed.
So you're saying it could be. So you're saying any carer. Are you saying an adult?
Yeah, I think
That's what I'm
predominantly.
hearing,
I
an
think a caregiver. So
Who's an adult?
But it doesn't have to be an adult is what I'm clear about as
Okay.
well. Because I think if you've got like my 2 boys are like 10 years apart, so there's a level of like looking up to an older brother outside of, so it's not quite an adult, but it's someone who's a little bit closer to you. But so
definitely,
I would
agree
say,
with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So let's look at the responses. 2 responses mentioned their fathers being key. The key people in terms of being involved, and then the rest after that talked about the immediate and extended family as key people to be involved, and that could be aunties, uncles, cousins, and it kind of varies: mentors, teachers, friends. So they kind of just talked about, a lot of the comments was just being everyone, really.
The community around the child.
Being the community, male relationships, female relationships, grandparents, teachers. People just listed the lot, really, which kind of highlights that this kind of notion around it takes a village to kind of raise a child. Are you surprised by that, or you?
Well, I was going to ask, is anyone surprised about the father figure? The father figure, pardon the pun. Did you say 2 people said that? So I find that a little bit surprising, because I would imagine that on the basis of a gender, the fact that we're talking about black boys, that people would go, oh yeah, it's the dad.
I thought there would have been more. I thought there would have been more people who would have cited fathers first, as opposed to the community as a whole. And I don't know if that's because of just, I don't know, sometimes you just kind of hear comments like on social media platforms, people talking about how key fathers are, or whether that society's just got really used to the fact that actually raising children can be various people who can play a significant role. Because I wondered, there was a time where single mothers used to get a lot of stick for raising boys, and whether same-sex couples also used to get a lot of stick. So I thought that would be the answer, where you would have seen a lot of fathers being put forward.
Same.
I think it's important I naturally thought mums more than dads, and the only reasons why is because the mums are the nurturers, and they say like mummy's boys, daddy's girls sort of thing, but that's all what society says. But what I did find interesting in what you said is when people spoke about teachers and the wider community outside the immediate family, and I think that when it comes to the point, because I remember some teachers in school, but I wouldn't say they had a great impact on shaping me as people. And I think that's because I come from a big family. I come from a loving family. There were so many other people who were there to kind of help nurture me to grow. And it made me wonder if sometimes you'll have people who will say, oh, this teacher changed everything for me.
Mm.
And then it makes me wonder, naturally, my mind curiously goes to the point of, I wonder what your household situation was like. I wonder what you experienced within your home. Did you experience love and nurture and care? And is it because maybe there wasn't as much of that as is the reason why this teacher then became so important? So
because I for me, teacher was okay, but they never. I wouldn't be calling no teacher to influence.
do you know what I mean? No.
And there isn't. I mean, my son's still very young. There wouldn't be anyone. There wouldn't be a teacher that he would necessarily call, but his cousins are really key, and that might be significant also because he's the only child, and a lot of his cousins, his older cousins, are boy cousins, whereas the younger ones are girls. And I do think sometimes he's like, oh, more girls, more women. And so when he's around the boys, he gravitates to the boys, really, especially the older boys. But that makes sense, really. He's the only child.
Yeah.
He's got younger cousins his age that are all girls. So actually, when he's around the boys, he's going to gravitate towards the boys. So giving it context, so it makes sense in terms of what you're saying around actually for people who might have named teachers. What else might be going? What might be going on?
But cousins.
So can I say something about teachers though? Because I think they are crucial, and what I'm thinking about having parented 2 sons is that academically, when we look at our sons' experiences in the classroom and in the school, that we know that those experiences can be very difficult to kind of manage in terms of whether they're kept in the classroom, whether they're excluded, etc. So actually, I think teachers are crucial, because I can remember from my eldest son's primary school having a black teacher and what that meant for him. She actually had him for 2 years, but that really helped him in terms of his confidence, in terms of her belief for him. She was always rooting for him. I'm not saying that only a black teacher can do that for you, but I'm saying that a teacher can do that for you, whether they're black, white, Asian, whatever. But it's about
representation
in the school itself, what that gives your child back in terms of their confidence and helps them in that to navigate that space. I still see teachers as being quite crucial.
No, that's important in that space.
But
I just think it's still wide when you think about the family. Do you know what I mean? With the question, I just think yes, there's definitely a role for them. I definitely think importance, but in that certain network, and I don't know if I feel that way because of the kind of family that I come from. But you was talking about cousins, Sharon, and cousins are so important because even though I have siblings, I have quite a few siblings, but my cousins, it's funny, even when we now as adults link up and talk about our childhood experiences, as cousins, I had older boy cousins as well, and I don't have no older brothers. My brothers are younger than me, so it was such a big thing for me. And to the point that when you used to play, like when kids used to use an imagination back in the day, we didn't have iPads to play on. Our imagination games were about, okay, we're going to drive to see our cousins. You know, like that was our role play games and stuff with me and my sister.
But you know, the other thing to think about, not everybody comes from big families like us as well. So some people didn't grow up with cousins. And so the network's going to look different, and who you cite as influential is not going to be from within.
But it's also about who you make your family as well, right? Because actually you can have your birth family, but actually they're not worth the paper they're written on. So, but you can actually purposefully. So, you know, one of the things that I'm always having a conversation with my wife, we talked about actually who are the people we want to be around our son, and actually what that's going to mean for him as he gets older. We're older parents, you know, he's our only child, and actually we want to make sure that he's got a family, a village around him that he can turn to, and he's going to know that actually these are people to respect. And you know, because actually those cousins are sometimes you're going to want to tap into those family members, especially when things may go a different way for him. But, you know, we don't know what he's going to, you know, as he gets older. But, you know, because it was interesting, I had a cousin who came over from America, and he's older than his cousins, and he was having a conversation about something they did, and you could just hear him, like, he just took on the kind of like elder cousin roles, like, oh no, you got to do better than that. What do you mean you're doing that? But those things are really important, right? Someone who can pull you back and say, no, you need to do better. You need to do better. And that's not always going to be a brother and sister or a parent that can do that. And sometimes aunties. Don't underestimate the role of aunties, man. They are
big roles.
And I suppose when we were all talking as well, because I was kind of thinking about different things, like if young people are in care, you know, so they don't have that family unit, so they have to turn to external people, whether that be teachers, neighbours, youth workers,
Yeah.
mentors. So
that's about the experiences. Obviously, they would have had certain life experiences that led them to be in care in the first place. So that's what it makes me wonder in those sort of circumstances. When it goes too wide, it makes me wonder what happened to that, what we would consider that inner circle. What wasn't they giving you?
It's also remembering that we're judging things from our own perspective as well. So kind of measuring people with our own yardsticks. It becomes difficult to imagine that some people don't have anybody.
Yes.
I've met people that are in this country that don't have another family member in the UK. They're literally on their J's with their child.
And that's difficult.
And they've
I can
got
only
no
imagine
support
how
system.
difficult that is.
And they've got to forge that through friendships and different things.
And that's the family that you make though, isn't it, for yourself? The family that you choose for yourself,
Okay, so let's keep the topic on to raising black boys. So the question was, how often do you discuss issues like racism, identity, or stereotypes within your children's life or children who are around life?
It's necessary, 100%. I think, especially, I've got an older son and I've got a younger son, and even my older son, he would say, "Oh, mummy," like, you know, they think you're going on about, I'd be like, how you're perceived, how society will perceive you, how. Do you, like, even now, he'll be going from work, and sometimes he likes to ride those damn Lime bikes. And I'll say to him, you need to be careful, because you're riding, and he goes to university. He's still in London, but he's in a different area than we lived and than we're from. And I'm like, I don't want people to even worried about things like racism, worried about things like him being perceived as a certain sort of young black person, as if it's winter or if he's wearing a hoodie, when he's not about that life. He's not on the streets. He's nothing to do with that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But how he could then be perceived, and talking to him about how people could treat you differently from a very young age, and making him very aware of that, and to the point where I feel like I have to make sure my son knows his rights for the police. Do you know what your rights are? Do you know what you can do? Do you know what you can't do? And these are things that I do think are specialists to black boys. That as parents of black boys, there's a different way we have to think about their level of safety
and how they carry themselves,
and how they carry themselves, and also not even just that. I think even labeling, because I'm very big on that. That in understanding my child's needs, I've got my youngest son. I would not. There's no way that I would ever allow his school to kind of put him in a box or perceive him as a certain way because he's a black boy. And I think. I wonder about, I'm a parent who can advocate for my child in that sort of sense, but I wonder about parents who maybe can't. And then what does that look like? Because the whole labeling and the stereotypes of, oh, your child may be disruptive or your child may be this or that, and you don't know if there's underlying issues or if there's different things that are coming along. So even when I think about that as a parent, and I know I'm a more educated, clued up parent, and I do wonder about those who can't do that for themselves.
Do you know where sometimes it might become a challenge is where you've got children who've got dual heritage, really, in terms of where they identify themselves. And, you know, if they're confident enough, then they've had an upbringing where they have a sense of both ethnicity, nationalities for their parents, or whether actually, although in the home they might be clear, but actually when they go out into society, they're perceived maybe as a black boy. But actually that's not how they're being raised in the home. That's when it probably becomes difficult, because then actually you're being pulled, aren't you, between actually how you want to be perceived, but how society sees you.
How you identify.
I've seen it on TikTok a lot. I've seen on TikTok there's biracial young people who will say, well, I'm not black enough for black people. And white people don't see me as white at all. I'm just black to them. But for black people, it's like I'm not black enough. And the kind of struggle that they have with that. Where do I fit?
Because actually it is always comes down to the color of your skin, right? You know, and if you're a darker skin, you're going to be perceived as black. Really, it doesn't matter how you explain it. No one's going to understand it. And one of the things that you were saying, Shad, that made me think about is that I feel like we're having to talk to kids about their experiences, about their identity and stereotypes much younger than probably when we had it as children. So, for example, we were in the car with my son yesterday, and we were driving, and there were a group of boys, and they just happened, they were black boys, and they were fighting this one white boy in the street. It was all taking place in the street. And our son turned around and said, what's happening? Why are they beating up that boy? What did he do? And then they got onto the Lime bikes and cycled off. And then we're like having to find ways to kind of have conversations with him about what he just saw and what that means for him as he's growing up. And it's like, we're just, and I'm just, and we're just, you hear, I remember I was speaking to a colleague the other day, and she was saying that how one of the things that she, she's got a child who's mixed parentage, and she said that, this whole post-Cold War, she didn't want her child involved in it, so she encouraged him, to get his license quickly. But then he has to deal with the police.
Yeah. You
Then-
move it from one thing to
Yeah,
another.
he has to then deal with the police and being stopped by the police. And I was like, gosh, I didn't think about that. You
Yeah.
might be
There's so many
encouraging
things.
one
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but it's something else that you
It's
then
a
have to
real
deal with.
thing.
Yeah.
As a mother of a son who's a young adult, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And the way how you think about
I
it.
suppose I was just going to ask, how did our cousins, our brothers navigate this? Because their grandparents or parents may not have had those discussions.
No.
But they got, do you know what I mean? But they muddled through. Not to say that's the right way to do it, but I suppose because some have grown up to exemptional young men, but they didn't have the conversations that we're having now. And I suppose I'm just wondering, what are we learning from that? And I suppose I know it's about the talking, but is there anything else?
But I feel like it's the you have to have those conversations now, because it's changed from when
Times have changed,
it's the times have changed. You could walk out on the street and there might be some trouble that would happen. Before it would be like it might be in Hackney, and if you lived in North London, but it didn't. The crime, the knife crime, it's just it's increasing. It's happening in schools. If you think about when you're in school, you can't think about a time when
It was a fist fight. You want to fight with someone, you meet me round the back or down the road, and we're having a fist fight.
And that was it, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about whether what's it gonna turn into.
Yeah.
So maybe that's probably why the conversations weren't had in the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas you as a parent, if you're as a carer, if you're involved in raising children, you've got to be having those conversations.
Unfortunately.
I think we're very fortunate now. We've got lots of books. I sat recently and read some books with my 8-year-old son about black skin, but also in a celebratory manner, where we talk about our inventors and people that came before us as well, to really help them to see that actually when you go into that school space and it is one-dimensional, where mention of slavery, it's like we've got the power and the tools to kind of educate them and empower them. And I say to him, oh my goodness, do you know about your ancestors? Do you know where you came from? Do you know like kings and queens? Just to gas him up, as they would say. And say this is who do you know you can be anything. And I think for us, there's so much power now, because we can have that conversation. There's a real strong narrative, and there's things we can use to do that. And I think
because you also have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's Black History Month, and I said to my son, "What are they doing for Black History?" He goes, "Oh, we had something in the assembly where we were told to, think about someone who is important to you." I was like, "That's it?" And I said, "Did you do anything else?" And he was like, "I was like, listen, it shouldn't be something that we do only in this month, but I tell you something, from now on we're going to be talking about actually your history and your because actually one of the things I said was, you know what, I said to him, it's not down to the school to teach you, it is really down to us, but it makes you school just reminds you, you know what, you got to do your part too,
there's a vacuum over there.
You got to do your part too. So 68, so we talked about, so the question was, how often do you discuss issues like racism? 68% said frequently, 15%, and it was kind of half and half, said sometimes and rarely. So there is still a percentage of people that are not talking about, and sometimes it also might be around confidence and your own understanding. But do you know what? There are sometimes those books that they have for children. It's a way of learning together.
Yes.
And I think it's really important that we find a way to kind of. When I'm thinking about Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, there's so many things that you want to get something that a child is going to enjoy, but sometimes it's important for us to find things that is going to reflect who that child is and buy things like that. There's so many different ways. Okay, so what do you believe is the biggest challenge Black boys face today?
What were the options?
No, you.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I think society's perception of them.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, what we're talking about is that we at home can raise really strong black boys the moment you open the front door, and potentially before you've even done that. And you know, just linking back to the last question, I can understand some parents not wanting to talk about it. Why? Because you almost want to protect your child and allow them the space of innocence. So that's
a fine balance there,
yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. It has to be, isn't it? Because you kind of leave it till longer, then it's going to be a short, sharp shock. They're like, oh my goodness, this is what the world is.
They look on the internet, and it's there.
But the world is telling them who they are, and it's all negative in terms of imagery. And I think actually that is on them the biggest thing, and it's externally, it sits outside of us.
So let me just kind of, you hit it right there, Davina. The most frequently cited challenges for black boys are negative stereotypes, racism, and societal perceptions. Yeah. So one of the other things was around the lack of positive role models, self-esteem issues, and navigating peer pressure are common concerns as well. Yeah. Several respondents mentioned systemic issues such as education, policing, and absence of fathers. Violence in gangs and crime-related influences are noted by multiple participants, which is interesting because I thought that was going to be one of the top things, but actually there were so many other things. There's so many things that it wasn't just the only thing, right? Because you can be raising children that aren't always involved in gangs, knife crime, but they're still facing other stereotypes and difficulties as well.
Yeah, don't you see the link though? It's structural, and it's structural racism, because actually
systemic.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've created like a black boy, and he's going to be a black man, and there's a strong narrative around what he is, then everything else is going to dictate. The society is going to be built in a way that he's going to move, and whatever he does, it's almost designed to respond to him differently than to somebody else. Yeah. So it's all by way of design, but specifically for that cohort of people, that population. It's not necessarily black women.
But it starts from when they're young. So I totally agree with what you've said in regards to kind of what society's view of young black boys, but I think when I say systemic, it's from how they're viewed within schools. It's from how they're even treated at birth, how their mother was treated when they were born. It's from every different system that they enter views them in a different way. So we can do our best as parents to try and raise them in a certain way, but we are in a society that no matter what they say, yes, things are improving. Yes, you can see more black people on the TV, so they'll say, oh, there's a bit more representation. I've never seen a show like where I've been watching what's that program? Not Love Is Blind. Maths.
Marriage.
Yes. So, but what I'm saying is, even when I see things like that, you have if there's any program where they've got contestants, and I get what they would say. They would say, oh well, you'd only see maybe the one token black person, or maybe the two token black people on the show, but there's not much things that are totally directed towards black boys where they can show positive role models. I've noticed that on the news now you'll have a few more black TV presenters and stuff like that. So they'll say, oh yeah, well we're trying, we're improving, that sort of stuff, but it's not enough. It hasn't gone far enough, and systemic racism still exists.
Do you think so? Just as you were talking, one of the things, do you think that black boys would face some of the same things if they lived in, say, St. Lucia?
No, I think it'll be different.
It's about the dominant ideology. So I think it's context specific to the West. And when I spoke about it being structural, I mean that by way of design, this society, but unlike the Caribbean, is designed in a way where we don't sit in positions of leadership and power, and we don't see enough positive.
Because some people do up and go back, take their children, family to Caribbean islands, right? Because it's something to consider, isn't it? You're always going to face some challenge or something, but actually that particular area might not be
be eradicated.
And I've heard someone say that until they came to the UK, they were from the Caribbean. They said until they came here, so all the things we haven't experienced, like a black parliament, black leadership, and all the rest of it. That was the norm for them.
Yeah.
So coming here is outside of the norm, which is crazy because it blows your mind. For us, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Don't you just love it when you go to the Caribbean? Because even in Jamaica, if you go, a lot of billboards that you'll see of different advertisements for their snacks and for their
black people.
all black people.
Yeah.
All black
They
people.
don't have the same sort of problem with imagery that we do.
And yes, all the Caribbean islands have crime, but it's all black people.
And it's not black on black crime.
It isn't. It's just crime.
Yeah.
It's not about colour or race.
But it's something to think about. Like it's because our parents came over here, and the idea was that they came over here to afford us a better life, right? But at no point some people may, like, at no point I don't remember ever having a conversation with my mum and dad. They were like, you know what, as soon as you can, make it work so you can go back.
Yeah,
because actually, the way we raised you, it would not have been this way had we raised you in Jamaica. But we don't have those. Some people might have those conversations, but I don't. This is the first time I recall having those conversations with other black women about actually, were we ever encouraged to think about actually, building a home back in our parents' country and going.
It's so funny you say that, because we think about how hard it is here, and they kind of talk about that a lot, but it's never about go back and kind of.
And some of my relatives have, they have built their life here, but built back home with the plan, of retiring for later on in life, to live there. But I think sometimes what happens is you work so hard in the UK that you don't actually get to spend that quality time back home. You'll be, it might have taken you 10 years to build your house, and then you only spend maybe 5 years.
But then you go there, and then the healthcare is.
That's what's going to
a lot of people end up coming back.
All right, so moving on to the next question: how confident do you feel in your ability to support a black boy in becoming a healthy, successful black man? So the question. So it was very confident, unsure, not confident. What do you think was the highest?
Confident or unsure?
Confident.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
So the very confident wasn't.
Because it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's just one person, because even when you ask that question, as somebody who is raising young black boys, I think to myself, I'm confident, but I wouldn't have said very confident, because it's not just me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not just me alone. It's me and the village that are raising them.
But so what does, in terms of your confidence in the village, is that where it kind of you're very confident in what you're doing, but your confidence kind of lessens when it comes to your village?
It doesn't lessen. No, I don't mean that. What I mean is they make it the very confident. So they're the additional that brings it from confident to very confident. So they're that part that brings it from confident to very confident. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot going on. I think people might feel that they're doing a good job, but actually, is it good enough? Because of the things that are happening that kind of go against that. So I think.
18% said unsure.
And the reason I was going to ask as well, because you can raise a young boy to the standard that you want,
and they're going to do what they want to do.
That's what I was going to say. Our society can pull them in, or they can just get mixed up and do one wrong thing, and that can just change everything that you've instilled. Because every parent, you would hope, is instilling those values in their young black boys. And it could just take one wrong turn, isn't it? And you get mixed up in the wrong crowd.
And that's very possible as well.
And
there's parents who do good jobs. There are parents who do a good job.
Yeah.
They do a very good job, and their child just.
So I think that's the society. They're getting involved in something in the community, and the parents done everything.
Yeah, it's true, and that happens.
Yeah.
I think you alluded to that before, Sharon. We don't know what the outcome is for our children. You kind of
we just
put
do
all
our
of
best.
this into raising them, and is the uncertainty that actually, when do you measure?
But like anything, the foundation has to be solid enough for you to kind of, if the foundation's rocky, then the chances are that it's going to be a rocky journey.
More turbulent,
But so if the foundation, you can only do as much as you can do. And then hope that they're going to.
And that goes back to what Shad was saying, wasn't it? In terms of you need to start from young.
Yeah.
You start from a baby. You build and instill the routines, the boundaries, so that when they become adults, they know the right from wrong.
Season, it will happen, because even when I think about
teenagers.
When I think about me when me growing up, I came from a strict background, but I remember I had a little time.
Open herself up.
No, I'm just
not
saying.
Not gonna comment.
I'm just saying. I had a little season where you turn teenage, you think your name's woman, all this sort of stuff, blah blah blah. But I got it back together. Why? Because my foundation was there.
Because adolescence is a really difficult period of time.
I didn't totally lose my mind. I'm just saying.
But you probably couldn't lose your mind, because
I had to lose my mind with discipline. within boundaries,
Definitely.
Okay, so when it comes to preparing black boys for adulthood, which area needs the most focus? So emotional intelligence and mental health, academic achievement, career and readiness, building healthy relationships, safety and navigating systemic bias, financial literacy and independence. Which one of those do you think was the highest?
I think all of the above, number one.
You need
all of the above is needed.
No, one of them.
So
no, but I'm just saying,
all
of the above.
Yeah. So which one do you think was the highest, though? Do you think that people who...
Oh, that's hard.
That was a long list as well.
I want to say I'm stuck between safety and mental health.
Yeah, emotional intelligence and mental health was one. Yeah.
So which one?
Wasn't that one? Emotional
intelligence.
There were two different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't decide.
Okay.
I'll just say emotional intelligence.
68% said emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Needs to be worked.
Because I think you
Makes
need
sense,
that.
though.
Yeah.
You need
if you've got that,
yourself and
you can
others.
navigate that resilience. It all
relationships.
comes under that, because that's actually, if you think about the number of the increase in black men and mental health, around resilience, all of those things, their emotional health, if they've got ways to be able to communicate difficulties, then it kind of puts them on good footing for all of the other stuff, right? If your emotional health's not good, you can't go out and work. You can't go out and access education.
How are you functioning in
you
society?
can't
do anything.
You can't. You can't think about finances and stuff like that, because there's so much other things that you're worrying about.
Yeah.
Okay. In your opinion, what is the most powerful way the wider community can support black boys?
Understanding them.
But that comes with education, I think. I think it's about education and knowledge about black boys, and not stereotyping them, and seeing them as, if it's a child, seeing them as a child or seeing them as a young adult, and not have all these biases about them. Because I think also as well, it's the undertones, isn't it, as well? It's that sort of perception of what young black boys are, because sometimes you get it within our own community. Sometimes if you see young black boys and they look a bit suspicious, you don't want to approach them because you're scared of what may happen. But it's that society thing, and I think it's maybe getting to understand a young person and what they're about, and not putting them in a box to say all black boys are this way. Because you've got some fabulous black boys in terms of what they do and what they want to amount to.
So many.
And there's and because when you sometimes look in the classroom as well, because a lot of boys are more, some of them are very academic, they're very much into like maths and it's about nurturing that, some rather than seeing them as, they're naughty or they're the class clown. It's stripping that back and like, why are they behaving like that? Because 9 times out of 10, they're finding it boring.
It's boredom.
They need to be stimulated.
100%.
So it's understanding where that child is and nurturing them.
100%. I agree.
Agreed, like that.
Yeah.
And it, also it might be also how they perceive themselves within a classroom, especially if they're the only black child.
Yeah.
Really.
Do you remember Saturday schools?
Yeah. They need to bring that back. Yeah, because if you're the only child in the classroom and people have you up on this pedestal that you are going to behave a certain way and act like a certain, you then fulfill that, right? Yeah. When actually, and that's not necessarily the path you want to go, but actually you don't know any other way, right?
That's a lot around that actually you touched on. That
that's a lot of pressure.
Prophecy. Yeah, well, they're told and then they deliver.
Yes.
Yeah. So, see them is one, and you touched on that. Positive support and action. Parents being open to the community stepping in where they're not available. Understand their perspective. Be of strong character and be confident to think positive. The wider community can support black boys by providing positive role models and mentors who offer guidance, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. Creating safe, inclusive spaces such as schools, community centres, sports or art programs allows them to explore their talents and build confidence. Challenging stereotypes, promoting equality and celebrating their achievements helps Black boys feel valued and supported in reaching their full potential. No judgment, more opportunities to progress before problems arise. Social activities, that keeps coming up a lot actually, because they don't have access to that in the same way. So they're used to being more around people who do not look like them, seeing beyond the surface, understanding the history, Black community experience. Be that village, open doors if you can, correct when you see warning signs, guiding them, coming together, demonstrating Black attainment and togetherness rather than killing one another or disdain for brothers' success. Also, those who have attained to impart knowledge to those who have blind spots. Christian values, community activities, reject stereotypes and recognise the individual, love and acceptance. So a lot of the things that you kind of mentioned, that was kind of talked about. And that is the end of the survey.
I really enjoyed that.
That was really good.
It was. It was a nice reflective bit.
Yeah, it was really good.
I think it's important to kind of just make time to celebrate, you know, the next generation. And one of the things I recognise is that we have always talked on the podcast about the next generation. We always find our way back there some way. And I think Dan's always helped us with that as well in terms of recognising what her generation is going to be like. And, you know, and it was interesting. I was having a conversation with my son today and he was like, will I be able to choose my mobile phone? I was like, I don't know if you're going to be having mobile phones when you get older. It might look like something else.
Chip in the finger.
Right? It might look like something else. But, you know, the next generation is really going to be important. And I think it's really important that we do use platforms where we can just to kind of celebrate, you know, our Black men, our Black women, and just keep having conversations that allows us to kind of reflect on, you know, things that are going really well and things that we don't understand and try and make sense of that. So I've really enjoyed and valued this conversation.
Thank you.
Definitely, it's
so
been good.
Can we say thank you to our viewers as well who responded to the survey?
Yeah.
Because that really helped to kind of think about some of those outliers, you know, like, oh, I wonder why. Because actually, again, for us to step outside of our own perspective. So thank you.
I just think as well as a point that as we've been talking about this topic, just for us to remember to speak life into our Black boys. I think that's really important. I think because society, they might experience being told different things. You saying they can't do this or they won't achieve that. And for us to tell them that you are the head and not the tail, you will achieve this, you can do that. So I think it's really important for us to remember. And I'm not talking about your own children, I'm talking about Black boys in general. You see a young Black boy presenting himself, or you tell him, do you know what I mean? You speak life into him.
Young king.
Yeah, you king, young king. You know, like when you used to, when parents or you tell your child off, go to your room, you doctor, you know, you surgeon, you lawyer. Professor, stop running your mouth with me, you architect. Like, let's speak life. Let's speak life. So let's remember the power of the tongue and be speaking life into all our Black boys that we come across, because you don't know what that could do for them in their journey.
Future leaders.
Yes, definitely.
So that's it. The end until the next episode. So that's a bye from me, Sharon.
Bye from me, Shads.
Bye from me, Davina.
And bye from me, Anne-Marie.
Bye.